The squeal of tires on wet asphalt is a sound that will forever haunt Michael. One rainy Tuesday, a split-second glance at his phone changed everything. When he looked up, it was too late. The impact was a deafening crunch of metal and glass, a violent jolt that threw him against his seatbelt. His car, a crumpled mess, had slammed into a small sedan. The world outside his shattered windshield was a blur of flashing lights and concerned faces. He was okay, just shaken, but the woman in the other car, she wasn't. Her name was Anna. Michael's life imploded. The days that followed were a suffocating fog of guilt. He replayed the moment over and over, each time feeling the sickening drop in his stomach. Sleep offered no escape, only nightmares of the crash. The legal proceedings were a sterile, impersonal process that did little to ease the weight on his soul. He was charged, he paid fines, his license was suspended. But the real punishment wasn't handed down by a judge. It was the one he served every waking moment in the prison of his own mind. He had hurt someone, irrevocably. He deserved this pain, he thought. For Anna, life had been neatly organized before the accident. She was a painter, her days filled with color and light. The crash plunged her into a world of monochrome pain. A severe leg injury and a long, arduous recovery process became her new reality. Her studio apartment, once a vibrant sanctuary, now felt like a cage. The physical pain was immense, but the emotional toll was heavier. The crash had stolen her independence, her passion, and her sense of safety. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw headlights bearing down on her. Anger was a constant companion, a bitter fire that burned away her usual optimism. She was angry at the rain, at her car, and most of all, at the stranger who had been so careless. Months crawled by. Michael, consumed by remorse, learned through the legal channels about the extent of Anna's injuries. He knew a simple, "I'm sorry," was laughably inadequate, an insult to her suffering. Yet, he felt compelled to do something, anything. He started writing a letter, his hand shaking so much he had to start over a dozen times. He poured out his regret, his shame, not to excuse his actions, but to simply acknowledge the devastation he had caused. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't feel he had the right. He just wanted her to know that he saw her pain, and that he was profoundly sorry. He sent the letter with no expectation of a reply. When Anna received the letter, her first instinct was to rip it to shreds. She wasn't ready to hear from him. She let it sit on her coffee table for a week, a white rectangle of accusation. But one sleepless night, fueled by a mix of frustration and curiosity, she opened it. The words inside weren't the excuses she had expected. They were raw, filled with self-loathing and a deep, palpable sorrow. She read it again, and then a third time. It didn't erase her anger, not even close, but it chipped away at the faceless monster she had imagined. He wasn't a monster. He was just a man who had made a terrible mistake. For the first time, she saw a flicker of humanity in the person who had turned her world upside down. This tiny shift was the beginning of a long, unpaved road. Healing, for both of them, wasn't a straight line. Anna had good days, where she could stand at her easel for a few minutes and lose herself in a brushstroke, and bad days, where the pain was a heavy blanket she couldn't throw off. She started physical therapy with a new determination, not just to walk again, but to reclaim her life. She even started a blog, sharing her recovery journey, the frustrating setbacks and the small, hard-won victories. She wrote about her anger, her fear, and the slow, reluctant process of letting go. Michael followed her blog. Reading her words was agonizing, a direct look at the consequences of his actions. But it was also a lifeline. It showed him she was fighting, that she was resilient. He dedicated himself to change. He volunteered at a local community center, helping seniors with their groceries, trying to put some small bit of good back into the world to counterbalance the bad. He started attending a support group for people who had caused accidents, a place where he could speak his guilt aloud without judgment and learn that he wasn't alone in his torment. He learned that self-flagellation wasn't a path to redemption. It was just another form of being stuck. A year after the crash, on a crisp autumn day, Anna walked without a cane for the first time. She walked to her favorite park, the leaves crunching under her feet, and sat on a bench, feeling the sun on her face. It was a simple act, but it felt like a monumental achievement. That evening, she wrote a short email. It had no subject line. The body of the email contained only 3 words: "I forgive you." When Michael saw the email, he broke down. It wasn't the cathartic release he might have imagined. It was a quiet, trembling wave of relief that washed over him, cleansing a wound he thought would fester forever. Forgiveness didn't erase what he had done. The scar on his soul would always be there. But Anna's words were a balm, allowing it to finally begin to heal. It wasn't an absolution that wiped the slate clean, but rather an acceptance. An acknowledgement that they were both human, both broken, and both deserving of a future that wasn't defined solely by their shared trauma. Their story doesn't have a neat, fairy tale ending where they become friends. Their paths diverged again after that. Anna eventually had a solo exhibition of her new work. The paintings were different now, deeper, with shadows and light that spoke of her journey through pain and into a new kind of strength. Michael went back to school, studying to become a counselor, hoping to help others navigate the kind of darkness he had known so well. Their connection remains a single, devastating moment in time, a violent intersection of two separate lives. But in the long, quiet aftermath, they both discovered something profound. They learned that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about integrating the past into who you become. And they learned that forgiveness, whether given or received, isn't about excusing a wrong. It's about releasing the poison of anger and guilt, not for the other person, but for yourself. It's the key that finally unlocks the cage, allowing you to step back into the light and begin, slowly, to live again. Thank you for watching. If you or someone you know is struggling with feelings of guilt, grief, or trauma, please know that help is available. Reaching out to a mental health professional or a support group can make all the difference. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.